Welcome to Between Two Chairs, Demystifying Commercial Real Estate, the podcast that brings you the latest insights and trends on the South Florida commercial real estate market, with your hosts, Fernando Arencibia Jr. and Jennifer Woolman. In each episode, we dive into the world of commercial real estate and break down complex concepts to make them accessible for everyone. Whether you're a real estate professional, a curious investor, or just interested in the South Florida market in general, Between Two Chairs is the podcast for you. So pull up a chair and join us.
All right, well, welcome everybody to a very special episode of Between Two Chairs. We are so excited by this amazing guest that we have today. Again, my name is Fernando Arencibia Jr., and with me is the always very colorful Jennifer Woolman. Jennifer, say hi.
Hi, everybody.
So I will tell you that one of the joys of being in any industry and business is you come across people that you meet early in your career, and then you expand and you grow, and they expand and they grow, and then you meet each other at different stages of life, different stages of a business arc, if you will. And there are certain people in life that you always have incredible amount of joy when you see them. And Michelle Gonzalez is one of those people. So Jennifer, would you do the honors of introducing
Well, I
our
feel like
guest?
you should, because you guys have so much in common. You're both FIU, right? Is your alma mater. Michelle Gonzalez is the broker of Floridian First Realty here in Miami, and she is a broker after our own heart. She specializes in commercial real estate, but she has a special love for small businesses, and her loyalty and dedication just comes across in everything she does. I could spend hours talking to her about different deals and issues that came up and projects and things that she does with women in real estate. And she does so much stuff for our community as well. And we just love working with her and coming across her whenever it is. And since it's Miami Spa Month, and we did a little intro as to what that means to commercial real estate in Miami during the summer months, we thought we would invite Michelle on as a small business tenant and landlord rep and have her discuss some of her projects, because she has leased spaces out to spas and beauty related industries. So go ahead, Michelle, and give us a little bit about background about yourself. We know your husband, your kids, because always a mom, right? We always say, oh, we're a commercial broker, but
That's right.
To begin with, we start out as we are moms.
So first of all, thank you so much for having me here, because I am so excited. I can combine both of your joys into mine. I'm super excited. So thank you for having me. And so, like you guys said, my name is Michelle Gonzalez. I'm the broker of Floridian First Realty, which is a family-owned boutique firm in Coral Gables. I met Fernando at FIU, like you said, and that led me to get my master's degree, because we were part of the FIU Real Estate Alumni Affinity Council. So I got my master's at FIU, and then I decided to transition from residential to commercial. So I do commercial real estate, representing a lot of amazing brands with a very much niche market in the restaurant world, but also doing spa deals, like you mentioned, and beauty associated concepts. So I love, my passion is real estate, and so I'm ready to talk. Ask me whatever you want, and
I love it. I think that that's a great start, in that I find that you have a soft spot in your heart for small businesses and small business growth and development, and how hard it is to really start a new venture, especially in the food and beverage industry, but really you apply it to all. Take us a little bit about what that experience is like, because when you first are working with a new business, the deals are smaller, right? There's a lot of work, there's a lot of hand holding. And then if they grow and they grow with you and you grow with them, then there's a beautiful aspect of being part of that growth. So can you tell us about some of the intangibles that you gain from that level of work?
So I would say doing real estate is almost like being a volunteer, right? You also volunteer like the first 6 months to a year to like really get your hands and your feet, deep into the woods and get that experience. And so when I transitioned from residential to commercial, that's what I felt like, okay, what do I do now? So I had to kind of do cold calling and door knocking to different brands that I personally liked. And yes, they were smaller brands because the bigger brands usually have tenant representation. So I was very, very lucky with the first brand that I ever represented that they had experience managing like Wendy's and Fridays and a lot of larger companies, and so their infrastructure was ready. And the owner that I was dealing with, he kind of took me on. So he's my mentor, I would say, because he was able to show me the implementation processes that they had from like these big corporations into this very small, because they came from Venezuela. So even though they owned these things in Venezuela and they were a big conglomerate, they were basically a smaller group here. They were a small business here in Miami. So I was able to learn from him and see those processes. But the startups that I deal with, the other ones, don't have any of those implementation processes, right? So when I first meet a small business owner that tells me, well, I want to open up a restaurant, I want to open up a beauty salon or any type of business, there's the one thing that I tell them is, A, you have to have a business plan. And B is that you need a deck, like a PowerPoint presentation that is going to explain what you do, what you did, what you look to do, your projections, what your menu of services is going to look like. And through that, like in the discovery process, I'm able to help them to be able to present to the landlord a pretty well put together prospect, even though it's a startup, that the landlord, is able to say, okay, look, I'm willing to work with them. Obviously, being represented by somebody that has experience also helps the client, the startup. And I really wish that more startups would seek the representation of a broker so that they could help them, reach different levels within that business that they're looking to establish.
Do you ever get pushback from tenants that are starting up? Like, because we come across that all the time. Somebody has an idea, they want to start a gym, they want to start a pickleball court. And then you say, okay, where's your business plan? How many courts do you have? Oh, well, we don't have any courts. And, well, what experience do you have? Well, we don't have any experience. Well, where's your business plan? We don't have one. We're not there yet. We wanted to find a location first. And we get some pushback when we say, well, we need this first because you're competing with other people trying to do the same style business. Landlords look for this.
So I offer them like some samples. Look, I'll send you a sample of what I'm looking for and prepare something. And I wanted to be a teacher. I didn't want to do real estate, on. And so I do have an elementary education degree that I think helps me with these startup clients that I kind of try to take like that motherly teacher approach. Look, this is a sample, come up with something similar. And I also tell these startups, I have contacts and I have relationships with landlord brokers. And when a landlord broker tells me, I love to get those phone calls of people that say, hey, I saw you have a space available. What type of business do you want me to put there? And I'll put whatever you want. Well, that's not the way this works. So, I kind of give that example. You have to have an idea and like what you see yourself in that idea, and I will do my best to fit your goal into the space and help you transition to get this deal done.
Can you, just for the audience to be better informed about the kinds of work that you've done, can you share a couple of companies that you work with that have been, where you have showcased that level of success?
From startups, so, there's like in all types of real estate, there's different levels, right? So you have your startup, which I help that one person. So I've worked with brands like OMG Brigadeiros. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but I had one location. I helped them find their second location. And then through, communication, through conversation with the owners, they were like, we want to offer different services. And so luckily, I'm born and raised in Miami and I have a lot of different connections. So I was able to connect them to offer, they do retail. I help them get into like the wholesale world. And also, they do really great with their marketing. So again, I would tell them, look, my opinion, because they have the eyes for the brand. I have the eyes for what the landlord and the real estate world looks into. And so I would give my opinions because, it's their business, but opinions of what they could do to kind of help grow their brand. So I would say, OMG is a brand that I worked with in the past. On the food world, I work with Mr. O1 Extraordinary Pizza with
Thank you for bringing them to Pinecrest. Woohoo! So happy. When I saw that, I'm like,
yes,
that was here.
I know we should have recorded this at
They're not
Mr.
open yet.
O1.
They're almost there. They're hiring.
Well, they have other locations.
Yes.
Thanks to Michelle.
That's good. I'm sure that Chef Renato would love to come on your podcast.
Oh, that would be lovely. One of the things that I find really interesting is that all three of us were at the South Florida Independent Retailer Awards, and this move that we have seen in the retail world, where it's been more about the experiential, retail. A lot of people think, well, they immediately think of restaurants, right? But the reality is that there was a huge number of health and wellness concepts that were represented at the awards. And so you've worked with a lot of those concepts. So where are you seeing that? Is there a huge demand and new concepts that are coming in the health and wellness industry for retail?
So yes, everything is about experience. It's about, getting your phone and taking the selfie and having like the really pretty backdrop and, people having a good time, the scenery. So I do see changes in the market, right? The only constant is change. So I'm actually right now working with a hairdresser that's very well known in a certain market within South Florida. And his partner, well, it will be his partner, she is a clothing designer. So together they're going to put together a beauty / pop-up. So the constant will be having the hair salon, and then they're going to be bringing Botox injectors, doing IVs, but they're going to have different treatments. There's so many changes in the market in the sense of the weight loss or, services that they do, the injectables. And so they want to bring different people from different markets to come and do these services. So when I spoke to a landlord, he's like, Michelle, it's not a good concept. This doesn't exist. And I'm like, well, why are you going to look at it as not a proven brand versus then, hey, it's a plan, the finances of the two partners are amazing and they're willing to build out the space and, so, some landlords will be riskier than others. It's just like saying pickleball, like the pickleball places. Landlords don't want pickleball. However, they are growing. Everybody's like, let's go play pickleball. Let's go. So we definitely are seeing different new trends emerge. And obviously, as time goes by, we're going to find other trends that will come along.
Well, and it's super curious that the landlord had that reaction because one, beauty salons have been around forever. So one, and that's the constant. The pop-up is the change to continue bringing people in, because I don't know about you, but I don't go to the you can tell I don't go to the beauty parlor every day, right?
Oh, you're beautiful, Jennifer. You don't need to go to the salon.
Aw, thank you. But so that's a way to create community and use the beauty salon as a place, right? And to cross market, right? So how many of people who go to a beauty salon might never have had an IB, but might be open to it if it's in a place with somebody that they've trusted with their hair for X number of years. So that's one thing that I think about. And the other thing that I think about is this little thing here. Imagine if somebody had said, oh, well, that hasn't been done before. Right. So let's not do it. I'm holding up for all our listeners. I'm holding up my iPhone. And so the fact that a landlord was immediately poo-pooing a concept just because it didn't exist or it hasn't been done is crazy to me, because there are a lot of things. Imagine the landlord who said, oh, well, medical doesn't belong in retail. Hello, every big and medium-sized retailer has some sort of medical nowadays.
True.
So to me, that and maybe that's where your teacher part came in with the landlord, right? Is talking to them about that. So let's talk about the spa, because I've been to this spa before, and you helped them with their second and third locations. And you spoke about the difference of having somebody with no business plan and where you start. How was it for you dealing with somebody on their second and third location?
So the first one is the hardest, right? It's the first step and the first deal you do, like, right? The first date you go on, like, they're all hard. So it's called Sana Skin Studio, and they opened in Wynwood during the pandemic. So it was a very difficult time. However, they have an amazing marketing. And in today's day and age, we all need to have amazing marketing in order to come across the different platforms. So when they started to set up and decide that they wanted to grow the brand, they were already prepared on the like, their business plan was already set up. They wanted to continue to grow the brand. So that was easy. And with their marketing, it really helped because their experiential based spa, per se, or locations really attract the experience for others. So they have a huge following. So at first, when I first started looking for the second location, people were like, I don't know the brand, but it looks nice, aesthetically nice. And so as I started to market it more and more, then people really, kind of said, yes, I know the brand. And once we signed the second location, which was in Coconut Grove, it became even easier to reach out to landlords and say, so we have 2 locations right now. And so as you go having more locations, so when I call different landlords now and I say, hey, we have 10 locations and we're looking for the 11, it gives them a wider, antenna to really listen to what we're looking for and work with us to make the deal work.
And I think the spa is amazing because, again, spas didn't used to be in retail, right? They used to be in hotels or in buildings or at health clubs. And now this space is in a very nondescript area, beautiful part of Coconut Grove, but it's not on the main strip. It's not in the shopping center, but it's in this retail space. And you walk in, and the minute you walk in, it is so peaceful. And they have their products out in the front, and then you walk in and their rooms are spectacular. I mean, you really do feel like you're in a health spa. You don't feel like you're in a retail center in Coconut Grove.
Right. You don't feel like, because part of the spa experience is like, if you go to a hotel, like the standard Fontainebleau is that, like you said, you have beautiful sights, you have the beach, you have the ocean air, you have a meal. And it's like this huge experience, like if you're going on vacation, at least that's how I feel. So exactly like you said, you walk into this space, it's 1,800 square feet, which is about the size of my house. And then, but you're automatically transformed into what you feel if you're like at the Fontainebleau or the Standard or, any other spa.
Were there anything, any like bumps or anything specific working with a spa that you have to think about? I mean, all I could think about right now when you were talking about the whole experience was the amount of TI for 1,800 square feet. And I don't know if that was an issue, but can you maybe touch on some of the details for somebody who might be working with spa tenants?
So the biggest issue that we've had so far is that in one of their locations, which is a larger strip center, it had a like candle making space next door. And then on the other side, I think it was, I don't even remember, I don't know, like a clothing store. Well, guess what? Tenants close or they move out. And the next tenant was the gym. What happens at the gym? You're either, it's a dance studio, so the music has to be really loud, and it's an older building, so the insulation was not really there. So that created a very big issue within the landlord. Obviously the tenant didn't want to pursue litigation or anything like that, and the landlord was pretty much willing to work with us. So that's, I would say, the first. Make sure that the dividing walls have plenty of insulation. That's one of them. And then TI. So the TI build out is pretty heavy in a spa because you need to have like a medical office. You need to have the infrastructure with water and sufficient electricity for the different machinery. So I would say that those are the top two that I would make sure that you guys are looking out for when you're looking into real estate spaces for spas.
What about within a lease? I mean, given that, and I'm thinking about that because we also represented a landlord outside of Miami-Dade, and one of their issues, and they had lost several tenants because they had a gym upstairs and downstairs they had retail. And the gym owner started a class with medicine balls.
Right. I mean, that's crazy that happened.
So that's something to think about in the lease is, kind of like you do in new development. Don't look at the view, because if the view is beautiful and wide open, they might be able to build something there that'll block it. So think about what could be there. And so the same thing in the lease. Think about who's currently there and what would happen. What would be a negative neighbor to have, and maybe there's a way that within the lease, before it becomes an issue, you can insulate.
Yeah, I find it interesting that, we have segments of a lease that talk about, noxious odors and chemicals and things like that. But more and more, I keep thinking that there's going to be some sort of a sound, paragraph in the, in the lease about whether you bring a tenant that is going to really be very loud, or the type of concept that they have is going to impact, the quiet atmosphere that I'm trying to create here, then it definitely is. It's going to be, I think, an important component moving forward. I wanted to ask you, and you kind of both alluded to it, is, if you would share with the audience, how important is for a landlord of retail to curate their shopping center properly?
Well, when you asked me the previous question about experiential, I was going to touch on that because landlords are becoming very involved more, I would say, than before on what, between exclusives as well as experiential based. I think it's very important when a landlord is interested in complementing the business. You don't want to have, any overlaps, and you don't want to have too much competition, but the landlords are doing a better job, I think, in my opinion, in providing that experiential based service to its tenants. So I'm sorry, to its patrons.
Right.
I wonder if the landlord had even thought about how letting a gym in, because you think, oh, well, that kind of complements its health. It's, I can be the health center and have stuff that complements. So my guess is they didn't even think about how the noise would affect a spa situation.
The unintended consequences.
Right.
Again, some landlords are concerned about noise and odors and things like that. And the lease does have provisions for exactly the noise language, but there's always room, right, to get better in the exclusivity language that you represent your tenant with, right? So a gym is great, but not really, because a lot of landlords don't want their parking heavy, right? There's 30 people coming in the morning every single hour on the hour, and it creates a lot of traffic. And so not all landlords like gyms, but I went back to the gym after skipping out on the gym. So I'm gym happy.
If it was a Zumba class, it might be different, but
Oh my gosh! Yes, if it was Zumba, it's perfect. Tell a great story, Jennifer. We'll have to touch you.
Except I'm the most uncoordinated person for Zumba. They're like, go left. And I'm like, why are all these people crashing into me as I'm moving to the right? But I march to my own drum. But
so you have the ability, because of your really expansive experience in all things real estate and in commercial real estate, to focus on so many other asset classes. And so I'm wondering, are you in a place where you found that it's almost like the universe has pulled you into the retail side and the small business side? Is this something that you always wanted to focus on, or do you have other interests in other asset classes outside of retail?
Wow, do you have a crystal ball that So, like I said, I got my master's and I married my two passions, food and real estate, because I'm a foodie even before foodie existed. And so, like my husband said, I was going to be the happiest woman in the world if I could represent the brands that I love. And I'm thankful to God. I'm thankful for the path. And you know what? I do represent the brands that I love. However, it's almost like I need more challenges. And so I learned one part of the retail world, and I think that's really segueing me into the retail sales, right? I really want to continue to work with landlords, but I do want to start selling shopping centers. It is what I feel is my next step on that commercial real estate ladder.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. How do you see the retail market in South Florida? I mean, in so many of our asset classes, we've been so much insulated from the rest of the country. Our economic metrics are very healthy. But how do you see the retail market after all the changes that we've seen through, including a huge jump in inflation that has really touched every aspect of our lives? And, and not only for today, but, in the next 5-10 years, retail in South Florida.
So I would say, to not sound, Miami is hot. Miami is super hot. I'm not talking about the weather. I'm just talking about Miami in general. I'm going to say something that I've said a few times. My husband, which you guys know very well, about 15, 20 years ago, he said that Miami was the Riviera of the United States. And I told him, I go, Kevin, please, that's ridiculous. Miami is not the Riviera of the United States. Like, never repeat that, right? But here we are, 15, 20 years later, and Miami is on the map as one of the hottest places to be, and everybody flocks here, which is great. However, that has made all of our real estate much more worthy, let's say, right? Much more pricey, much more not available, right? We definitely don't have enough products for the amount of prospective tenants and prospective buyers that we have. So I would say that the retail market is hot. The industrial market continues to be hot. The residential market continues to be hot. Office sector is still hot, right? So we're lucky because we have buyers and we have sellers and we have a market. Our market, some segments have gone down a little bit, but I would say it's not significant enough for us to be like, oh, we have a problem in Miami. I feel that we are, growing at a little bit of a slower pace than we were last year. However, we are still growing. And that to me is important. One more thing I wanted to say, when I was little, I was maybe, 8 years old, I would go with my grandmother to Flagler, downtown Miami. And we would go to Thing Sing or Woolworth. And my grandmother, every time I would go with her to to go by Fabric, I think it was, and she would tell me Miami is one day going to be a very impacted city and very like a hot city, right? And it's going to be on the map. And this is about 40 years later, but she was right. Miami has changed, and unfortunately, the pandemic, a lot of people suffered, but it kind of created another level of Miami after the pandemic.
Well, listen, for all the listeners, any married man out there, the lesson from Michelle's story is that if you wait 15 years, you too can win an argument in a marriage. So congratulations. And good job to Kevin.
15 to 20. Let's try it. 15 to 20 years later, you might.
15 to 20, you might. There you go.
But 15 to 20 years later, the woman still remembers.
Wow, that's a great point.
We never forget.
That sounded like a threat, okay?
So tell us a little bit about what you're seeing in the market. Are you seeing some cool trends? Are you seeing trends? And we had a conversation earlier about restaurants and how many are going out of business. And it seems like, especially in the summer months, we always have businesses that weren't doing well to begin with. This is when a lot of them tend to decide we're done. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about what you're seeing, people and industries maybe that are struggling in the group that you work with, and those new ones that people have put like a little bug in your ear as to concept.
I was just in Italy So I have to say, I had an amazing trip in Italy. But before I left to Italy, I was like, wow, I feel like almost every concept, a lot of concepts are doing all day dining, right? There's a lot of amazing concepts and a lot that we frequent, but there's really been this growth of the all day dining. And I was like, I don't know how really feasible that is. But now after I went to Italy and I really saw like their lifestyle and Miami also being a 24-hour city, all day dining is necessary. So in Italy, they have coffee, whatever, they have a little snack at 3 o'clock. And that's the same thing in Miami. You have people that are partying all night long and waking up at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and they want to have breakfast. Well, there's a ton of places there to have breakfast. So I think all day dining was a trend that I thought maybe wasn't really going to hit. But now after being in this European city and country and seeing how they live, I feel that this is a trend that's going to stay. I think all day dining is something that's going to stay. I also have all day dining concept that is opening a dinner part to kind of be like all day long and even offering wine and beer and full liquor to really compete in different sectors of the market. So all day dining is going to stay. And then as far as the food, I don't know. I love to try all kinds of foods. So I don't know what really like new food concept there is. Obviously, there's a lot of brands coming from around the globe, especially from New York City. And that's something that I did feel offhand, like right in the beginning of the pandemic, I had a chef that came from New York and we met. He wanted to open up a restaurant and he told me that the minimum price per person was $250 at his restaurant. I was like, wow, $250, that's crazy. Fast forward to today, you want to go out to eat, how much are you spending per person? You're spending $200 to $300 in some instances. So the New York mentality, and we're not comparing ourselves to New York because we are completely different, but a lot of New Yorkers coming down and bringing their concepts, I think that we're going to see a lot more of that as well.
And I think the all-day dining just goes to the on-demand mentality that most of us have these days, just because of how easy tech has made us to get anything. I mean, I remember when, Amazon would deliver something, and if you got it in 2 or 3 days, it was like, wow, that was fast. The other day, my husband ordered something and he just did, regular or Prime member regular. He got it in 2.5 hours. He was like, what? Like, I didn't need it that fast, but he got it. So I think the all day dining is like, look, I'm hungry now. Okay, it might not be lunchtime and it might not yet be dinner time, but I want to go eat now, which is pretty much me all the time.
I want breakfast for dinner today. I want pancakes. I want pancakes and I'm going to get pancakes. And I think that's another trend we're seeing between a variety of foods, a specialization, right? So like, let's say when you want to go have pizza, you'll go to a restaurant, they have pizza and they have pasta. Well, Mr. O1 only does pizza, right? That same with sushi. Like you might go to a sushi restaurant, they have rolls, they have hand rolls, they have tempura, and then you see emerging the omakase, which is like the higher end. You have places that are just doing rolls. You have places like poke that they're just doing. So like from one meal, we are growing in like more defined niche markets. I also did a deal for Jealous Fork Pancakes. I don't know if you guys have been there. It's Jealous Fork. They specialize in pancakes. That's it. Savory pancakes, and they do sweet pancakes, and that's their market, and they do really, really well because their focus is pancakes.
Absolutely.
And that's a hyper niche. Yeah.
But it is delicious.
Yeah.
and I love their build out because it's very streamlined. It's very minimalist, but they did a really nice job of building out their store, and I think that they're looking to grow. That's another concept that will continue to grow.
Have you worked with any franchises?
So yes, I am representing Nothing But Cakes right now, which is a local brand, a local franchisee is looking to open a few units. I also work like Mr. O1, Pizza, La Boulangerie, Bull Mitch. They have franchisees that I work with as well. And then, we're in conversations with other brands that are also franchises looking to open up down here.
So we've had a segment before, but I always like getting other people's experiences or opinions. So we had one before with a woman who only pretty much does franchisees. And tell us a little bit about how that's different than working with, a new concept.
So the legwork has been done. When you're a franchisee, you've paid that fee. You're paying a fee to get your head out of the nuances, right? That build business plan, the marketing and things like that. So you're buying into something that's established that will hopefully do well in whatever market most of these larger brands have like universities, right? Where you go and you learn how to bake a croissant or you learn how to make the cake. And so the complaints that I get from franchisees is that they don't really have an open door. They don't have an open slate to make a change on a menu. Some franchisors do a better job at like pre-qualifying their franchisees because sometimes I feel that in an effort to grow really fast, they don't fine-tooth comb and go through those applications and give franchisee licenses to anybody. And it can really be a detriment to the brand. And I think that that's one of the biggest caveats to deciding to franchise is who you align yourself with. You want to make sure that that person is representing and has the experience in the food and beverage world before you accept them as a franchisee.
Mm-hmm. So nobody clean out. So you wouldn't recommend a restaurant franchise for somebody that wants to own a small business but has never owned a restaurant. They just like to eat.
Yes.
I would be a really bad restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, it just depends on that person and how committed they are. But in seeing the franchises that fail or, that don't do well with their franchisees is because the franchisees are multitasking and they have another business and they have another full-time job and they're trying to do this as extra income when in fact it might kind of just bleed them a little bit dry and they were better off not doing the franchise.
I'm wondering because of the concept that you shared about, your client that has the salon and then they're going to do different pop-up concepts. How much do you know about those IV places that, where you could go and get an IV of vitamins and all those stuff? I'm always curious about how well, and how busy they are.
Well, as an avid IV infuser, I actually was recommending someone yesterday to go to get an IV. So I go to an IV place. It's called Rejuveline Med Spa, and they're a small business, but they were recommended to me before the pandemic. And I would actually go every month to get an IV treatment during the pandemic. I actually went and got an IV treatment before I went on my trip a few weeks ago. I got a cold, but I wasn't deadly ill like everybody else was. I sick for 2 days maybe, but perfectly fine, just the sniffles. So I think that those IV places are really amazing. You just gotta go, like everything, to a place that's reputable, a place that's been open for a while, that follows the protocols that we would follow if we were the owners of that location. So I'm for them. I vote for them. And if you're thinking about doing it, you should get one.
All right. There we go. So, look, I think there's like a whole trip that we're developing here. All right, we go get some IVs, then we go to Mr. One Pizza, we go to the boulangerie and get dessert and coffee.
I like the way you think. Yeah. I love it.
This is awesome. Well, Michelle, we can't thank you enough for your time. You really are an incredible asset to, obviously the people that you serve. and our industry and the brokers that you work with, you have a very collaborative approach to the way that you work, and you're very always willing to share information that is impactful and that is going to benefit both sides of the transaction. And for that, I'm very appreciative.
Well, I thank you, Fernando, because you and Jennifer as well are both, legacies in the real estate market. Fernando, you are an amazing leader as, on the boards, just as you, Jennifer, you are both amazing leaders, and having relationships in this business is really what counts to me. And I know that it counts to you. And, we make a difference one deal at a time. That's how I look at it. And I appreciate you inviting me, because this has been a lot of fun. And I look forward to the next one. Hopefully you'll have me back.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Absolutely.
When we do our when we sell our first shopping center together.
There you go.
I'm going to put it out there.
Maybe we can sell it together. Maybe.
Even better.
Sell it together and maybe invest in it too, because we love retail.
There we go. I love it.
All these possibilities. When you throw them out into the universe tends to listen, right?
Absolutely.
Amen.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you both.
We always finish each segment where Fernando and I do like a fun fact. So do you have a fun fact, Fernando?
I don't have a fun fact.
Alrighty, so sometimes we do. So yeah. I'll do a fun fact, and this is just what's trending, and this is from AmericanSpa.com, and what's trending in 2024 in the medical spa industry. And I'm only going to give you the first two, because the next two, I can't even pronounce half of the things that are in there. So the first one is anti-aging technology, and it has to do with all of the facial treatments, laser, fillers, Botox, etc. So I think we've seen that with the explosion of places like the one that you represented. And the other one that I think is really interesting is laser therapy for pain relief, where it does exactly what it says. They use all of these non-invasive and holistic machines, and it's not just a massage or just physical therapy. It's all sorts of stuff to stimulate blood flow, enhance cellular movement, etc., to help the body heal itself. So, and mini facelifts, where it's not surgical. They go in and they do little mini facelifts where they can do it. It is not as invasive. So, and I'm thinking of all this because my son's getting married in Europe, and I keep going, should I do Botox? Should I get a facelift? And no, I can't.
So if it's
I'll just get a facial.
So if it's a non-invasive mini facelift, does it involve Scotch tape?
I do not know. What I do is, if I feel like I need it, like now, I'll just go like this, and I'll be holding my face when I interview. See, it looks like I got fillers.
That's lovely. That's one thing about commercial real estate, guys. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Can't wait to see you out and about soon. Have a wonderful summer.
Thank you.
Absolutely, Michelle.
Thank you again for having me.
Absolutely. Bye-bye. Thank you guys for joining us. Appreciate you pulling up a chair. Once again, we want to remind you we have a YouTube channel where you can see a lot of these interviews, these dynamic interviews, and just go to YouTube and type in Between Two Chairs. We'd love for you to like, share, and subscribe, and we appreciate your patronage. All the best.